The kindest heart can be the cruelest to itself. When empathy crosses into self-betrayal, love turns into loss. You're the one staying up late, absorbing their midnight texts, while your own exhaustion piles up unnoticed. Ready to see how that story unfolds? It's not a sudden break. It's a gradual slide, where understanding someone else's chaos starts overriding your own signals. This pattern, codependent empathy escalation, isn't born from flaw. It's a survival tactic, etched in from early days, perhaps in homes where you learn to diffuse tension by putting others first, or in jobs across North America, from Vancouver boardrooms to Chicago commutes, where listening becomes your default shield. Compassion fatigue isn't abstract. It's the real drain hitting 85% of workers, per recent Wellhub reports on exhaustion and burnout. You recognize it in the way you excuse their inconsistencies, telling yourself you get their backstory. Self-betrayal begins the moment empathy replaces self-protection. That's the core mechanism. It forms through repeated exposure. You absorb their emotions to avoid conflict, to feel connected. In American dating apps or Canadian coffee meetups, it shows up as ignoring red flags for the sake of harmony. The push-pull keeps it going. Empathy draws you in with that rush of being needed, but it sustains itself by eroding your boundaries, one concession at a time. You downplay your fatigue, normalize the imbalance. Why does it feel essential? In a culture flooded with social media confessions, from TikTok vulnerability dumps to X threads on mental health, refusing to overextend seems cold. Yet 66% of U.S. workers report job burnout in 2025, according to Forbes, often tied to this unchecked emotional labor. It's the empathy trap that Gen Z calls out, that over-empathy burnout era, where kindness quietly costs your core. You've lived it, forgiving lapses because their pain feels louder than yours, dismissing your instincts as overreactions. This relational exhaustion builds in silence. The unspoken pain, I've poured so much into grasping their world that my own needs have vanished into the ether. It's the ache of empathy without boundaries, leading to self-sacrifice. In toxic relationships, it thrives because it masquerades as depth. The mechanism locks in, formed in vulnerability, sustained by avoidance, vital to evade the fear of isolation. From LA's fast-paced scenes to Toronto's steady winters, people navigate this empathy versus self-slay dilemma daily. Arguments left unspoken, messages replied to at all hours. It's not about judgment, just the quiet recognition of how self-betrayal in the name of love becomes habit. Boundaries over burnout, that lingering question. But what if the next step reveals the exact point where you started fading? Hold that thought as we dig deeper. The pattern doesn't halt at recognition. It burrows deeper when you let it. You find yourself scanning their face first thing in the morning, gauging their mood before acknowledging your own. A late-night call jerks you awake, not an emergency, but your reflex to respond, to fix. This is the mechanism tightening its grip. Empathy boundaries fade into unchecked absorption. You preempt their triggers, tweak your words, bury your frustrations, not just to connect, but to sidestep the storm you know is coming. The toll emerges in fragments. Discussions turn one-sided. You probe their day, they unload. Your share? Cut short with a nod. You let it slide. This hidden trade-off, your emotional space for their calm. They offload, you absorb. The imbalance grows. Resentment simmers, unvoiced. You convince yourself it's fleeting, that deeper understanding will even the scales. But the illusion fuels the cycle. The more you invest, the more indispensable you seem, the harder to pull away. This echoes across North America, From Toronto's high-rises, where 49% of workers feel daily stress per Gallup reports, to LA's endless commutes, where burnout hits 72% of professionals as exhausted and overwhelmed, according to ANPD data. People keep giving despite the drain. Why persist? Drawing back feels like failure, not of them, but of your role as the anchor. Compassion fatigue sets in quietly, not with fanfare, with numbness creeping into your responses. You listen, but the empathy feels forced. Your shoulders tense, your mind wanders mid-story. The body signals first, a persistent heaviness after every interaction. This is self-betrayal embedding itself. In daily routines, you skip your workout to be available, you ignore your headache to hear them out. You justify their outbursts as just their stress talking. Across relationships in the US and Canada, the loop tightens. Spouses, colleagues, siblings, the absorber depletes, the unloader thrives. And you linger because leaving means admitting the need was never mutual. You felt it firsthand, flinching at their tone, then apologizing for your reaction, rehearsing replies in your head only to soften them. This is the empathy burnout vibes Gen Z captures, the over-empathy burnout era, where care hollows you from within. The unspoken pain intensifies. I've decoded their every nuance, but lost track of my own breaking point. It's the sting of empathy without boundaries, morphing into self-sacrifice. In toxic bonds, it locks you in. Understanding becomes the chain. The mechanism digs in, rooted in belonging, fed by conflict avoidance, vital to evade isolation. From Vancouver's foggy mornings to New York's bustling streets, folks shoulder this. Unanswered messages pile up from friends as you prioritize the drain. What if staying isn't kindness, but fear dressed as loyalty? That realization hits like a quiet accuser. You're not just caring, you're trapped. And when the trap snaps shut, what's left of you? The depths reveal more. Stay with the question. The pattern reaches its breaking point not in a dramatic explosion, but in the moment you finally hear your own silence. You're alone in the room, phone face down, and for the first time in months, you don't reach for it when it stays quiet. That quiet isn't peace yet, it's terror. Because the moment you stop absorbing, the space where their needs used to live starts filling with yours, and they feel foreign, angry, resentful, even small. You've been so busy decoding their pain that you never noticed how much of yourself you left behind in the process. This is where the mechanism begins to crack, not because you suddenly become strong, but because the cost has finally become louder than the reward. In 2025, across North America, from Vancouver's quiet condos to Miami's humid apartments, people are hitting this wall. 72% of professionals report feeling emotionally exhausted at work, ANPD 2025, and countless more carry the same depletion home. The unspoken pain that once felt bearable now screams. I've spent years holding space for everyone else, and now there's no space left for me. It's not just fatigue. It's the hollow realization that you've been living as a mirror for someone else's story. The empathy burnout vibes that Gen Z named years ago have become a full-blown epidemic, the over-empathy burnout era, where giving everything leaves you with nothing. And here's the dangerous truth most content skips over. Understanding someone completely doesn't always heal the relationship. It sometimes reveals it was never mutual to begin with. You start noticing the patterns you once excused, the times they dismissed your feelings with "you're too sensitive," the conversations that ended the moment you needed something, the way being there became your job, not your choice. This is the line between compassion and self-sacrifice, and crossing it back is terrifying Because reclaiming your boundaries means risking the loss of the connection you've paid for with pieces of yourself. Yet the alternative, continuing to disappear, is no longer sustainable. The mechanism that once felt necessary now feels like a cage, formed in survival, sustained by avoidance, necessary until it wasn't. In the quiet after the storm, you begin to ask, what if the kindest thing I can do for myself is finally stop being kind to everyone else at my own expense? What if love doesn't require you to erase yourself? The question doesn't have a neat answer, but it has weight. And once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. You can't go back to pretending the drain is normal. From Seattle's rainy streets to Toronto's winter nights, people are waking up to this truth. One small boundary at a time, one ignored text, one honest, I can't right now, one night of sleep without guilt. The pattern doesn't end overnight, but it ends when you decide it's no longer worth the price. And that decision, however small, is the first real act of compassion you've shown yourself in years. If this resonated with you, if you've ever felt yourself fading while holding space for someone else, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to For My Ex for more conversations that don't sugarcoat the truth. We're here to name what's really happening, even when it hurts, because understanding starts with seeing clearly, and sometimes that means seeing yourself first. Thanks for watching. Take care of you.